Testing requirements for visitors and penalties for persons breaking the emergency powers COVID-19 orders will be strictly enforced. Good evening, everyone. I'm LaDon Davis, and this is the Weekend Edition. Thanks for tuning in. In his national address this afternoon, Prime Minister the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis noted that as the country reopens its borders to international commercial flights on July 1st, testing for visitors entering the Bahamas will be required. The Prime Minister also emphasized the need to keep the COVID-19 cases low, gave specific details on the emergency powers COVID-19 orders and how penalties will be strictly enforced. Altaviz Munnings joins us live with more details on the Prime Minister's national address. Good evening, Altaviz.
Good evening, LaDon, and good evening, Bahamas. When beaches and parks reopen here in New Providence, Paradise Island, Grand Bahama, and Bimini tomorrow, Prime Minister the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis underscored in his nearly 40-minute national address this afternoon that gatherings on beaches of more than 5 persons are strictly prohibited and will result in a fine under the emergency orders. He also said mass gatherings can result in a beach's immediate closure. And the Prime Minister hinted that beach monitoring this week will determine whether or not beaches will be opened or closed for the upcoming Independence holiday weekend. Now, gymnasiums and group outdoor exercise also starts tomorrow. Masks are not required during exercise, only when it's about to begin and immediately after. The Prime Minister also revealed that when international commercial flights, hotels, vacation rentals, taxi, public and private bus services resume this Wednesday, July 1st, attractions, excursions and tours won't open until July 13th, and vendors, including straw vendors and jet ski operators, can operate their business until July 27th. Now, government is ensuring, though, that all persons take a RT-PCR COVID-19 molecular diagnostic test administered by an accredited lab prior to returning to the Bahamas.
Effective the 7th of July. The results of the COVID test must have been taken no later than 7 days prior to the date of arrival. Until that date, tests that have been taken no later than 10 days prior to travel will continue to be accepted. We have made the window of time for testing shorter for the protection of Bahamians and residents. Bahamians and residents returning to the Bahamas from countries where they cannot obtain COVID-19 tests may be permitted entry. We want our people to be able to return home. However, they must clearly demonstrate that the test from that jurisdiction was unavailable. They will also be subject to mandatory requirements for 14 days upon arrival in the Bahamas.
The Prime Minister explained that because of the difficulty in obtaining a PCR COVID-19 test result within 3 days, Bahamians and residents returning home from a trip abroad over a period of 72 hours or less are exempted from having to provide a PCR COVID-19 negative test result to re-enter the country. But he said these travelers will have to quarantine for 2 weeks upon their return home. And in both instances, the period of quarantine time may be reduced if the traveler opts to take a COVID-19 test upon arrival in the Bahamas and the result is negative. He indicated that the traveler will be responsible for the cost of the test, and all persons entering the country may be subjected to thermal temperature checks and continued monitoring by the Ministry of Health.
If you are thinking of traveling for non-essential or emergency reasons, please, I beg you, stay at home at this time. Please, stay at home. If you must fly, visit our family islands. If you travel to these areas and go to the malls, shops, restaurants, and other establishments, you might catch this deadly virus. You could bring the virus home, and community spread can now start within our society. Let me be as clear as I can. Your actions can damage the health of others, and your actions can help worsen our economy if we have a lockdown again.
Prime Minister Minnis also announced that the Royal Bahamas Police Force will lead the COVID-19 enforcement unit in collaboration with the Ministries of Health and Tourism. A $200 fine, 2 months in prison, or both will be levied on residents and visitors not wearing face masks. The first offense of not wearing a mask in a business establishment is a $500 fine, a $1,000 fine for the second offense, and the third offense involves the business's temporary closure or paying greater fines.
If you stand close to someone without a mask covering your mouth and nose, and they have no mask on, they could expel the virus as they talk to you. You could breathe it in and subsequently become infected. By wearing a proper face covering, we protect one another. It is a sign that we are our brothers and sisters' keepers.
The Prime Minister made it clear that if residents stop following health officials' advice and/or emergency orders rules, an increase in the COVID-19 virus will return. The Prime Minister said if the virus does come back in a major way, he will be forced to reinstitute longer curfews and lockdowns. And he says he doesn't want to do that, but government will have to do what is necessary to save lives. Reporting live, I'm Altaviz Munnings. Back to you, LaDawn.